Sometimes it's good to look at yourself like a stock, and in the way that the prices move are, or the value of a stock is similar to how you look at yourself. Every stock has value. Every stock has value until it goes out of business, right? And so, or at least until it's every stock has value that you can trade. And the way that I look at in this analogy, I look at myself as a stock. I look at myself as like an undervalued stock, an undervalued stock that has a large short interest on it. And for anyone that doesn't trade, those are kind of just like weird terms. So I'll break it down so it makes a little bit more sense. For every every stock does have value, and it's based off of a couple things, right? And just like you, every myself, I feel like I'm an undervalued stock as determined by myself because I know that there is tremendous amount of value that is within me, within the company. But sometimes it also takes it also takes a realization of other people to notice as well. But the way that I was thinking about this earlier was when you're shorting a stock or it's heavily shorted, what that means is that it's people betting against that stock. They're taking a short interest. They are no joke planning on you to fail and drag you down. And when you're undervalued, undervalued just means that it hasn't fully came to fruition yet. Like people haven't seen the purpose or believed in it enough to invest in it. Um, or that may even be yourself. Maybe you don't believe in yourself, so you undervalue yourself, and that's really what I feel like. I feel like I undervalue myself because I do know a lot of people see the value in it. Um, but think of like the short interest on a stock when people are betting against it. Think of that like the internal pressure that you have on your lives constantly. And for me, I have a unique life, and everyone has a unique life, and I have just a ungodly amount of uh, unique pressures that I face all the time. And the way that you can combat now, just because a stock is getting shorted doesn't mean that it's going to fail. But what happens is if you pull the value down, eventually it'll consolidate. And what that means is, kind of as you just pull yourself down, you get into these ruts and these motions of just flatlining. And it can really go one of two ways. When you have all this pressure on you, you can go up or down, and that's it. That's the only choice that you have. You're in a consolidation phase, but ultimately you're gonna have to make some sort of action. And if you allow all of the negative pressures and all these negative things to affect you, it's hard when a stock is shorted. When you're shorted, it's damning. It just you're sitting and almost like waiting for the inevitable. Like when is this going to just fully be dragged? And what happens when other people that have invested into a shorted stock or into you, and they see that all this pressure is collapsing you and you're not handling it well, what happens is, well, what do? They panic sell. They leave, right? They leave. People leave. And it gets even harder. It gets even harder to combat that negativity, to combat that negative pressure, that short interest. It gets even harder to keep that value up when you've allowed the pressure to pull you down and everyone else loses confidence in you and they just start slowly trickling away. And then you just watch your price action drop. You watch yourself, like the value of yourself slowly diminish. And then, more pressure just drags it down even faster. But the opposite can happen as well. Ultimately, if you just completely give up and everyone sells off and you just let that pressure completely collapse you, just like a company, you're gonna fail. You will fail until it just doesn't exist. And that happens a lot. And the big thing is all the people that are shorting, that are betting against you, they just in the stock world, they make more money the shittier that you do, the more you go down. They bank on your failure. But it can flip the opposite way as well. Because a great way to save a stock, an undervalued stock that has heavy short interest, is what do? You flood it with buyers. You flood it with interest. You flood it with positivity. You flood it with with assets. You flood it with things that are going to positively progress you. You know, you first off, for me, I I've at this point I'm leaning into my faith as a heavy asset, as a heavy investor. God's the ultimate investor. Because He created all of us, so He knows and sees the value in everything. And for me, it's, again, it's faith based. It's believing and gaining more confidence in myself. It's listening to things. It's doing my devotions. It's reading my Bible. It's having conversations with people. It's surrounding myself with positivity, doing the things I have to do in a positive light to gain myself back, to know and to see my value that I know is there. And as you do that, it combats some of that negative pressure. You bring the positivity and it's going to start counterbalancing the negativity. And again, relating it to a stock, as you have more buyers come in, and as long as they hold on, they don't sell, you're going to have more negative pressure coming in. You're going to have more short interest hitting you constantly. But as long as you maintain that positivity, slowly but surely, you'll see that price action move up. You'll see it move up. It might be 5% this week, 5% the next week, 10% another week, down 6% one week. And it feels like it's a slow burn because it really and truly is. But what's not happening is you're not being drugged down anymore. Even though all that negative pressure is still there and it's still coming in, that short interest is trying to pull you down the most that you can. You are just trying to flood it. You're flooding it with new buyers. You're flooding it with new interest. You're flooding it with new opportunities and positivity. It's constant flooding of positivity, and it'll rise. And then when it gets to a point where that short interest, everyone that said that short interest, that negativity, they have to do what's called covering their position, which means the negative pressure that you have on yourself, or in a stock essences, when it gets too much and they're losing money and it's not working, it's not pulling down anymore. When it's going up, they start losing money so much to a point where then they have to now invest into you. They were betting against you, but now they got to buy into you. And when that finally happens, when your enemies buy into you, when they can't deny it anymore, when you can't deny it anymore because you just see that you're on the rise, when that short interest fails, you get a short squeeze. And what happens is you have squeezed out all that short interest, all that negativity, and it had to flip into positivity, and a stock shoots up. Your value shoots up. So it really is, it's like this teetering line that we're just sitting at. If you hold yourself as a stock, right? And as difficult as this short interest might be in your life, it can absolutely be combated. And I'm saying this in a sense of like to try and breed positivity, but I'm going fucking through it. And I'm a very confident, positive person. But it's hard. It is very, very, very hard. But the key is to stay consistent adding little by little. For me, it's hard. Where I'm at right now is a lack of purpose. And so it's hard to see the value when you can't see the purpose. And it's very easy for negativity and short interest to come just blast you and take you down. And it's fucking damning. And it hurts to see. It hurts to watch. It's scary. It's fearful. Because you don't know. You don't know what else is going to happen. I promise you, what happens is as soon as those eyes they get on you, as soon as people start seeing like, wow, okay, there's something going on here. Once all the eyes are on you, it's going to pop. You're going to pop. And you're going to take off. Because now everyone believes in you, and even the haters had to believe in you. And they had no choice but to invest in you. You have to first believe yourself, though, and it's a process. It is a process. And you got to believe that just because you have some success doesn't mean it's going to last forever. As you start to creep up a little bit, you're going to gain more attention, which means more short interest, more pressure. And if you sit up and you just get a little bit up here and you reach your first crest, right? And you think you're good and you chill, well, what'll happen is you'll start consolidating. And once you get to that point, more short interest comes and it pulls you right back down. So the best thing that you can do is combat your own short interest with as much positivity, as much assets, as many new good investors as you can, and start with yourself so that you're not completely diminished and forgotten. So it's a different way to look at yourself and maybe how to approach certain things. But I guess if you start viewing yourself like a stock, one that you care about, you'll start to improve yourself on your own. And everyone else will see your value too. So I guess we just got to keep going. So I hope that helped. I hope that helped somebody. There's a heavy burden on my mind today because it's just a tough mental day. And they happen. But I hope, share this with somebody and shed some light on them, spread positivity, spread it in your life. Just be a new investor in someone else. And I'll see you guys on the other side.